In this example, we will create a spreadsheet model that will help us figure out what this company should do. The company has three different products: educational version, large-scale version, high-speed version of a software that they would like to develop. And they have 5 market segments that they cater to: students, laboratories, consultants, small companies, and large companies. In this first table, we're given the willingness to pay of different market segments for different versions. For example, consultants are willing to pay up to $500 for the large-scale version, and if the large-scale version is priced more than $500, then they will not buy it. If at least one version is priced within consultants' price range, then they'll be buying 12,000 copies of a desirable version. And if they will be marketed to, then the marketing costs are going to be around $150,000. So these first 3 tables are willingness to pay, the market size, and the marketing costs. Then we have fixed costs for each version. This tells you how much each version will cost to develop if we decide to go with those versions. As you can see, educational version has no fixed cost because if you look at the case description, you will see that it's already developed. Then you have the variable cost to produce 1 unit of each version. And then our ultimate goal is to decide how to price these versions so that we can come up with a good profit. Eventually, the goal would be to find the prices that will give you the best profit, the highest profit. But for now, all we would like to do is create a spreadsheet model that lets us try out different pricing scenarios. Let's quickly take a look at this spreadsheet from a spreadsheet engineering perspective. As you can see, I have labels and fonts and colors to make the spreadsheet more readable. Blue is the color I choose for all the input values, yellow is the color I choose for our decisions, and orange is the color I choose for our ultimate objective here, which is the profit. I have one place where I have all the parameters and the inputs. I have one place where I do the calculation on which versions will be entering in the market, and I have one place where I calculate the profits based on the revenues and the costs. So let's try a few different scenarios and then figure out how the customers will buy these versions and look at a few rules. Let's say educational version was priced at $30. Large scale version was priced at $1,000 and high speed version was priced at $2,000. Now then, if you look at the student market, they will not buy any versions whatsoever because all the versions are actually priced higher than their willingness to pay. So we can summarize rule 1 as if prices for all the software versions are greater than the willingness to pay for any particular market segment, then that market segment will not be buying any products. And if you price everything outside everybody's range, then you will not be able to sell anything. So let's say if the price for educational was $200 and this was $1,200 and this was $3,200, as you can see, these 3 numbers are higher than their corresponding columns. So the largest here is 150, the larger is 1,000, the largest here is 2,500. So in this particular case, you will not be able to sell any of the versions, so you will not develop any of the versions. Now, what if for a market segment, the prices are actually below their willingness to pay? For example, let's look at consultants. They're willing to pay up to $100 for educational version, $500 for the large-scale version, and $750 for the high-speed version. Let's say the educational version was priced at $50. The large-scale version was priced at $250, and the high-speed version was priced at $400. Now, as you can see, educational version for consultants is $50 cheaper than what they're willing to pay. Large scale is $250 cheaper than what they're willing to pay, and high speed is $350 cheaper than what they're willing to pay. In this case, they will go with the software version that has the maximum positive gap between their willingness to pay and the software price. So for consultants, then the choice is going to be the high-speed version in this particular scenario. Let's look at the last rule. Again, focus on consultants. Let's say educational version is priced at $50, large scale is priced at $450, and high speed is priced at $700. In this case, the difference between consultants' willingness to pay for each version and the price for each version is exactly $50 for all three cases. And we will assume that if the difference between the willingness to pay and the software price is constant for a particular market segment, then they will go with the version that has the maximum features. So in this particular case, they will actually choose the high-speed version. You might notice that this is actually a gross approximation, but that's what we're going to assume for this particular model. Next, I will briefly explain to you how the model will flow. So, we will first make pricing decisions. Let's say 25, 400, and 1200. Then, based on the prices and the willingness to pay, we will look at the value for each market segment for each version by looking at the difference between the willingness to pay and the price. Now, if the value is negative, this means the price is higher than the willingness to pay for this market segment and that version, then that version is not attractive to that market segment. So for each market segment and version, we will calculate the value. Once we calculate the value for each market segment, then we will find the version that has the best value. If the best value is negative, then this means that market segment is not going to be active. If they are active, this means they have at least one version of software that has a positive value for them, and we decide which one they choose based on our rules. In this column, then, we will have accumulated all the choices by different market segments. If they're active, they'll have a choice. If they're not active, they will have no choice. Then, based on who chose what version, we can decide whether a version will enter into the market or not. For example, if nobody here has chosen the high-speed version, then we will not enter high-speed version into the market. In the next step, we will look at how much price is paid by each market segment based on their version choice here. Then we'll find their revenues based on the price paid and their market size. Then, if a particular market segment is active, we will figure out what their marketing costs, what their advertising costs are using the values here. Then we'll calculate the variable cost based on how many units they're going to buy and which version they're buying. And by using all the revenue and cost figures, we'll calculate the profit from each segment. Then we'll add the fixed cost of the versions that will be developed into the picture, which will help us calculate the final profit. This is where we'll end our discussion for the first part of the video. In the second part of the video, we'll create the spreadsheet model.